I walked into the office after my 3-day regional meeting feeling lighter than I had in months. The quarterly numbers were excellent. Our project deadlines had all been met, and I'd even managed to secure additional budget for team training. The moment I stepped off the elevator, something felt wrong. The usual Monday morning buzz was missing from our department floor. The East Wing corridor, where my team of 7 brilliant engineers worked, was eerily quiet. "Finola?" I called out, looking for our lead developer, who was always first to arrive. No answer. Our workspace, the one we'd earned after delivering 3 consecutive breakthrough projects, stood empty. Desks cleared, monitors gone. Even the potted plants we'd nurtured were missing. Only rectangular dust outlines remained where our equipment had been. I spotted Loxley from accounting walking past. "Hey, what happened to my team?" "Oh." His expression shifted to something resembling pity. "You should check the basement. They moved them yesterday." "The basement?" We didn't even have office space in the basement. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Each floor passing by heightened my dread. When the doors opened, I had to navigate through storage areas and maintenance rooms before finding a door with a hastily printed sign, Engineering Team B. I pushed it open to find my team huddled between exposed pipes and utility boxes. Their monitors balanced precariously on folding tables. Extension cords snaked across the concrete floor. Water dripped from a ceiling pipe, landing with rhythmic plunks into a bucket near Finola's makeshift desk. "What happened?" I asked, though their downcast faces told me everything. Finola looked up, her eyes burning with humiliation. "While you were gone, Dieter came down with movers. Said we needed to relocate immediately to make room for the new specialist. We had 30 minutes to pack everything." "A specialist? What specialist?" "Some productivity expert," Ren, our youngest developer, added. "Dieter says he's going to revolutionize the whole department." I climbed back upstairs to our former workspace. MRA, bright, airy, strategically positioned between the testing lab and design team. Now it housed a single person, a young man arranging framed certificates on what used to be my desk, while Dieter, our department head of 5 months, hovered nearby with an expression of unbridled admiration. "Ah, there you are," Dieter exclaimed when he spotted me. "Meet Bastian, our new productivity transformation specialist." His revolutionary approach increased output 300% at his last 3 companies. He needs proper space to implement his vision. He lowered his voice. "Your team can manage downstairs until next quarter's budget review." I stared at Bastian, who didn't even pause arranging his awards to acknowledge me. I nodded silently and returned to the basement where my team waited, the distant hum of industrial machinery vibrating through the walls. The Wi-Fi signal barely reached. The nearest bathroom was a single toilet behind a shower curtain. The air smelled of mildew and defeat. 32 years with this company," muttered Vega, our hardware specialist, "and this is how they treat us." I surveyed their dejected faces, people who had given everything to this company, who had pulled countless all-nighters to meet impossible deadlines, now stuffed in a basement like unwanted furniture. Then I smiled calmly. "Pack your bags," I said. "Not just for down here. Everything." They stared, confused but trusting. I held their gaze, my smile never wavering. "Trust me. Just start quietly gathering everything you might want to take with you someday, and keep this conversation between us." If you're enjoying this story so far, please tap that like button and subscribe for more workplace revenge stories that will leave you breathless. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever been undervalued at work. My name is Thea Moretti, and until that basement moment, I'd been the loyal, dependable leader of Engineering Team B for 8 years. Before joining the company, I'd spent 15 years coordinating refugee camp logistics during humanitarian crises across 3 continents. The company had hired me for my technical knowledge, unaware that I'd spent those years building global industry relationships while setting up supply chains in impossible conditions. I wasn't just good at solving technical problems, I excelled at solving human ones. When I transitioned to corporate life, I brought those skills with me. I could spot talent in unlikely places and build cohesion among wildly different personalities. Each member of my team had been handpicked not just for their technical brilliance, but for their ability to solve problems under extreme pressure. Finola, our lead developer, had been rejected by 3 other companies because of her unfiltered communication style before I recognized her genius with complex systems. Ren, fresh out of college but with natural talent for finding elegant solutions, had been passed over for higher-profile graduates. Vega had been ready to retire when I convinced him his hardware expertise was irreplaceable. Then there was Dax, our quietest member who spoke 5 programming languages but struggled with human ones. Kyrie, whose testing protocols had become industry standard. Indra, whose security systems were impenetrable. And Noor, who could translate technical requirements into language anyone could understand. For 8 years, we delivered consistently excellent results without fanfare. We weren't the flashiest team, but executives knew we were the ones to call when they needed something impossible done reliably. 6 months earlier, our longtime department head retired, and Dieter arrived with grand ambitions but zero understanding of our work. From day one, he'd been hunting for a game changer to impress executives, ignoring our consistent results in favor of flashy innovations. His golden hire, Bastian, had dazzled him with buzzword-filled presentations and promises of revolutionary methods. What Dieter never investigated was why someone with such transformative skills changed jobs 3 times in 2 years. For 2 weeks after the basement relocation, we worked from our exile. The conditions were abysmal. The temperature fluctuated wildly. The lighting gave everyone headaches, and twice we had to cover equipment during overhead pipe leaks. Yet my team followed my quiet instructions: archive projects, organize knowledge bases, create transition guides, while continuing their assigned tasks without complaint. "I don't understand why we're documenting everything so meticulously," Dax whispered one afternoon. "It's not like they appreciate our work anyway. Everything we do should be done with integrity." I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "No matter where we do it." The others exchanged glances but kept working. They trusted me, even if they didn't understand. Then came a surprising call from Yvain, the CEO, requesting I present our team's accomplishments at the upcoming board meeting. My team's spirits lifted. Finally, recognition. The morning of the presentation, I dressed in my best outfit and carefully reviewed my slides in the basement's dim light. As I climbed the stairs to the executive floor, Dieter intercepted me in the stairwell. "Change of plans," he smirked, blocking my path. "The board wants to hear about future innovations, not past performance. Bastian will present instead." But Yvain specifically requested. "I spoke with her this morning. She agrees my approach makes more sense." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "The board needs to hear about where we're going, not where we've been. You can go back to your workspace." My team deflated when I returned with the news. Our youngest member, Ren, glanced at her half-written resignation letter visible on her screen. "So this is it? We're just giving up?" "Not yet," I replied, my voice steady. "Keep packing quietly." Later that day, word spread through the company grapevine that Bastian's presentation had bombed spectacularly. Board members had asked technical questions he couldn't answer, exposing his shallow understanding of our core business. Dieter attempted damage control by promising our team would implement the concepts, despite their reluctance to embrace change. That afternoon, Dieter visited our basement, suddenly friendly. "Good news. We're considering moving you back upstairs, to the East Wing." The East Wing, slightly better than the basement, but still a clear demotion from our original space. The message was clear. We were still less valuable than the golden hire. "Thank you for recognizing our value," I said, surprising my confused team who expected outright rejection. Hope flickered again. That evening, Ren admitted she'd torn up her resignation letter. "If we're moving back upstairs, maybe things will improve." I merely nodded, saying nothing to confirm or deny her optimism. 2 days later, I invited an old colleague to tour our facility. As we walked through departments, I deliberately timed our arrival at the executive floor for when I knew Dieter would be showing Bastian around to potential clients. "Thea," Dieter called out, too loudly, too friendly. "Perfect timing. Come meet Grayscale Solutions' executive team. They're interested in Bastian's productivity system." I approached with my visitor in tow. "This is my colleague, Talia." Dieter eagerly introduced Talia to Bastian, who launched into his rehearsed transformation speech. "Fascinating approach. Talia said when he finished. You've used this successfully elsewhere? Absolutely. My methods boosted efficiency dramatically at my previous companies. Northwest Technologies saw a 300% productivity increase in just 1 quarter. Strange, she replied, her voice cool and measured. I sit on the board of Northwest Technologies. We never recorded such improvements. In fact, we noted significant project delays during your tenure there. The conference room went silent. Bastian's confident smile faltered. There must be some confusion, Dieter began, his face flushing. No confusion, I interjected. Talia's here because I accepted her job offer yesterday. I'm bringing my team to establish a new engineering division at her company. We start next Monday. The grayscale executives shifted uncomfortably. Bastian's confident smile vanished completely. You can't take your team, Dieter sputtered. That's poaching. It's unethical. But completely legal, I finished for him. Check our contracts. No non-compete clauses. You relocated us to a basement with leaking pipes while focusing resources on unproven methods. Talia is offering us double our current salaries and proper working conditions. The board will never. The board approved it yesterday, Talia added, after reviewing your division's performance metrics against industry standards. Dieter's face cycled through shock, anger, and fear in rapid succession. The grayscale executives began gathering their things, making excuses to leave. Wait, Dieter's voice cracked slightly. The East Wing renovation starts tomorrow. I'll match their salary offers. I looked at him with the same calm smile I'd worn since finding my team in the basement. Too late, I said. The executives from Grayscale filed out, followed by Talia, who said she'd wait for me in the lobby. When only Dieter, Bastian, and I remained in the room, Dieter turned on me. Do you have any idea what you've done? He hissed. I've secured my team's future, I replied. Something you failed to do. You've destroyed mine, he said, his voice breaking. The board was already questioning Bastian's hiring. If your entire team leaves, you chose him over us, I said simply. Actions have consequences. As I turned to leave, Dieter grabbed my arm. Please, I made a mistake. I see that now. What will it take for you to stay? I looked at his hand until he released me. You know what's interesting about my refugee camp work? I said quietly. I learned that true character reveals itself not when things are going well, but in how people treat others when resources are scarce. You showed us exactly who you are when you put us in that basement. I walked out, leaving Dieter standing there with his golden hire, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty conference room. What I didn't tell him was that my plan had been in motion long before the basement incident, and that what he'd just witnessed was only the beginning. Back in the basement, my team waited anxiously. When I returned, their expressions ranged from hopeful to terrified. Well? Finola asked, unable to contain herself any longer. I closed the door behind me and surveyed the room, checking for any potential listening devices, a habit from my humanitarian crisis days. It's done. Talia offered us all positions, double our current salaries, proper equipment, and a real office with windows. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Ren let out a whoop that echoed off the concrete walls. Are you serious? Vega asked, his weathered face struggling between disbelief and hope. Completely, I confirmed. Contracts are being drawn up as we speak. We start next Monday. The celebration that followed was as muted as it was emotional. Hugs exchanged, tears wiped away discreetly. These weren't just colleagues. They were people who had become family through late nights, impossible deadlines, and shared successes. I knew you wouldn't leave us in this basement forever, Noor said, squeezing my hand. But how did you pull this off so quickly? I hesitated. It wasn't quick. I've been laying groundwork for months. Their faces registered confusion. Months? Indra asked. But the basement thing just happened 2 weeks ago. I sat on the edge of a folding table. The basement was just the final straw. I saw where things were heading the day Dieter arrived and started talking about fresh perspectives while ignoring our track record. So you've been planning our escape all this time? Kiri asked. Not exactly an escape, I corrected. More like an insurance policy. I started documenting everything, our contributions, Dieter's dismissals, project successes he took credit for. I reached out to old contacts, including Talia, just to reconnect. When things started deteriorating, those connections became more important. Dax, always the most perceptive despite his social awkwardness, studied my face. There's more to this than just finding us new jobs, isn't there? The others turned to me expectantly. Let's focus on the transition for now, I said carefully. We have 1 week to wrap things up properly. No loose ends, no unfinished projects. We leave with our professional reputations intact. What about Dieter? Finola asked, a dangerous edge to her voice. Does he know we're all leaving? He does, I confirmed. And he's panicking. The board was already questioning Bastian's hiring and the resources allocated to him. Losing an entire specialized team in one stroke is going to raise serious concerns about Dieter's leadership. Good, Vega muttered. 32 years, and he sticks me in a basement. What's our strategy for the next week? Indra asked, ever the pragmatist. We work. Professionally, thoroughly, and without complaint, I said. We document everything meticulously. We prepare transition guides for our replacements. We act with complete integrity. Why? Ren asked, her youth making her the most direct. Why help them after how they treated us? Because this isn't about them, I explained. It's about us, about who we are. And because the best revenge isn't what you do to others, it's what you build for yourself while they're not paying attention. The team exchanged glances, not fully understanding but trusting me nonetheless. There's something else you should know, I added. Talia isn't just offering us jobs. She's creating an entirely new division with us as the core team. We'll have autonomy to build something from the ground up. This revelation shifted the mood from cautious celebration to genuine excitement. Even Vega, who had been contemplating retirement before the basement incident, straightened with newfound energy. What are we waiting for? He asked. Let's finish our work here so we can start our real work there. For the next 3 days, we operated with mechanical precision. Every line of code was commented, every process documented, every system mapped. We worked longer hours than necessary, our impending freedom fueling our productivity. On the 4th day, Dieter appeared in our basement, looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his typically immaculate shirt was wrinkled. Thea, can we talk privately? He asked, his voice lacking its usual confidence. I glanced at my team, who pretended to be absorbed in their work while obviously straining to hear. Anything you need to say can be said here. We don't have secrets. He shifted uncomfortably. I've spoken with the executive team. They've authorized me to offer your entire team a 15% raise, effective immediately. We're also expediting the renovation of the East Wing. You could be back upstairs by next week. I noticed he didn't mention what would happen to Bastian. That's very generous, I said, but we've already signed contracts with Talia. Contracts can be broken, he pressed. I'm sure there are clauses. There aren't, I interrupted. Talia's legal team made sure of that. Dieter's professional veneer cracked slightly. Please, Thea. I admit I made a mistake with the basement situation, but this is going to destroy my career. The board meeting is on Friday, and if I have to announce that our entire engineering team resigned, for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The basement wasn't a mistake, Dieter. It was a revelation. It showed us exactly how much you valued our contribution. I kept my voice level. You chose Bastian's empty promises over our proven results. Now you have to live with that choice. He left without another word, shoulders slumped in defeat. The moment the door closed, my team erupted in whispered exclamations. Did you see his face? Kyrie marveled. 15%, Dax murmured. That's substantially less than double. It's not about the money, Finola said sharply. It's about respect. I let them talk, turning back to my computer to hide my expression. What they didn't know, what I couldn't tell them yet, was that Dieter's desperation was exactly what I had been counting on. That evening, as we were preparing to leave, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Yvain, the CEO. I stepped into the hallway to take the call. Thea, she began without preamble. I just heard the news from Dieter. Is it true your entire team has resigned? Yes, I confirmed. We've accepted positions elsewhere. A long pause. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning. Just you, not your team. 9 o'clock in my office. I'll be there, I agreed, then hung up. When I returned to the basement, 7 pairs of eyes locked onto me. The CEO? Finola guessed. What did she want? A meeting tomorrow morning, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Are they going to try to stop us from leaving? Ren asked, worry creasing her forehead. They can't, I assured her. Our contracts are solid. This is probably just an exit interview. But as I said it, I knew it was much more than that. Yvain wasn't the type to conduct exit interviews personally. Whatever she wanted would complicate my carefully constructed plan, for better or worse. I slept poorly that night, rehearsing scenarios in my head. By morning, I had prepared for every possibility except the one that actually occurred. Yvain's office occupied the corner of the top floor, with glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city. She sat behind a minimalist desk, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed documents. When I entered, she removed her glasses and gestured to the chair across from her. Thea, she said, her tone unreadable. I appreciate you coming. Of course, I replied, taking the seat. She studied me for a moment. I've been reviewing your team's contributions over the past 5 years. Impressive work, consistently delivered with minimal resources. Thank you. My team is exceptional. Yes, she agreed, which makes me wonder why they're all leaving simultaneously. The basement relocation seems insufficient as an explanation. I maintained eye contact. It wasn't just the basement, it was what the basement represented. Explain. When Dieter moved us downstairs to make room for Bastian, he sent a clear message about our value to the company. The basement was just the physical manifestation of how he, and by extension, the company, viewed our worth. Yvain leaned back. And you think I share this view? With respect, I said carefully, you approved Bastian's hiring and the resources allocated to him, despite no proven track record. So yes, I assumed you endorsed Dieter's approach. To my surprise, she laughed, a short, sharp sound. Dieter convinced the board, not me. I was outvoted. And now I get to say, I told you so at tomorrow's meeting. Her expression sobered. But losing your team is too high a price for being right. She slid a folder across the desk. This is what I'm prepared to offer to keep your team here. Not under Dieter, reporting directly to me. I opened the folder and scanned the document inside. The terms were exceptional, better even than Talia's offer. Autonomy, resources, recognition, and compensation that reflected our true value. For the first time since this all began, I felt my resolve waver. This was everything we deserved, everything I had wanted for my team before Dieter arrived. Why now? I asked, closing the folder. Why not 6 months ago? Politics, she said simply. The board wanted to give Dieter a chance to implement his vision. I couldn't undermine him openly, but this situation changes things. You're using our resignation to consolidate power, I observed. She didn't deny it. Mutual benefit, Thea. You get what your team deserves. I get to restructure without internal warfare. I need to discuss this with my team, I said, taking the folder. Of course, but I need an answer by end of day. The board meets tomorrow. As I stood to leave, she added, there's something else you should know. Talia and I have history. This isn't the first time she's recruited from us after disagreements. The implication hung in the air. Was I being used as a pawn in some corporate chess game between Yvain and Talia? I returned to the basement, mind racing. My team looked up expectantly. What happened? Finola asked. I held up the folder. Yvain wants us to stay. New department, reporting directly to her. Better terms than Talia's offer. The stunned silence was broken by Vega. She's trying to save face. Maybe, I acknowledged. Or maybe she's sincere. Either way, we need to discuss this. What followed was the most honest conversation we'd ever had as a team. Fears were voiced, hopes articulated, trust questioned. The basement's dim lighting seemed fitting for the shadows we were exploring in our professional lives. I don't trust them, Indra said firmly. They only value us now that we're leaving. But building something new here, with real support, Kiri countered. We wouldn't have to start over somewhere else. Ren looked torn. What about our word to Talia? We signed contracts. With exit clauses, I reminded her. Legally, we could accept Yvain's offer. Dax, who had been quiet throughout, finally spoke. This decision isn't about what's best for us professionally. It's about what we can live with personally. All eyes turned to me. What do you think, Thea? You've led us this far. I took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine everything, not just our careers, but the culmination of the plan I'd been crafting for months. The plan that had evolved from simple self-preservation to something much more complex. I think, I said slowly, that we should split up. Their faces registered shock. Not permanently, I clarified. Strategically, 4 of us accept Yvain's offer. 3 go with Talia as planned. We maintain our connections, share information, and protect ourselves from being vulnerable to any single employer again. The silence that followed was profound. Then Finola began to laugh. That's absolutely brilliant, she said. We become our own network. Neither company can take us for granted again. The tension broke as the team began discussing how this might work. Who would go where, how we'd coordinate, the potential advantages of having inside perspectives at 2 major companies. As they talked, I slipped away to make 2 phone calls. The first to Yvain, the second to Talia. Both conversations were challenging, but by their conclusion, I had secured what we needed. When I returned, the team had reached consensus on who would stay and who would go. I've spoken to both Yvain and Talia, I announced. They've agreed to our split approach with one condition: regular collaboration between the 2 teams on select projects. They're actually excited about the possibility. And which group will you lead? Noor asked the question everyone was thinking. I smiled. Neither. I'll be consulting for both teams, dividing my time, building bridges rather than choosing sides. The relief in the room was palpable. We'd found a solution that honored everyone's needs while creating something entirely new, a team that transcended organizational boundaries. As we celebrated our unconventional solution, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Board meeting moved up to tomorrow, 9 a.m. Dieter presenting restructuring plan. Bastian featured prominently. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the message, my mind rapidly recalculating. This changed everything and nothing. The final phase of my plan would need to happen sooner than expected, but the outcome might be even better than I'd hoped. Change of plans, I announced, interrupting the celebration. We need to prepare for tomorrow's board meeting. Why? Vega asked. We've made our decision. Because, I said, tomorrow isn't just about our future. It's about making sure everyone understands exactly why we're leaving and what they're losing. As I outlined what we needed to do, I saw understanding dawn on their faces. This wasn't just about finding better jobs or escaping a bad situation. This was about changing the system that had devalued us in the first place. By midnight, we had everything prepared. As we finally left the basement, possibly for the last time, Ren asked the question I'd been waiting for. Thea, how long have you really been planning this? All of this? I looked at my team, my brilliant, loyal team, who had trusted me through basement offices and uncertain futures. They deserved the truth, or at least part of it. Since the day Dieter introduced Bastian as the future of the department, I admitted. But what's happening tomorrow? That part I've been planning much longer. What exactly is happening tomorrow? Finola pressed. Justice, I replied simply. And I need you all to trust me one more time. As they nodded their agreement, I felt a surge of something powerful. Not just the satisfaction of a plan coming together, but the absolute certainty that what we were about to do was right. Not just for us, but for every overlooked team, every undervalued contributor, every person who had ever been relocated to a metaphorical basement to make room for someone flashier but less substantial. Tomorrow would change everything, and no one, not even my team, knew exactly how. Morning arrived with a pale light filtering through the basement's tiny windows. I arrived before anyone else, dressed in the charcoal suit I reserved for the most important client presentations. As my team arrived one by one, each looked surprised to see me already there, calmly preparing materials. Ready for today? Finola asked, setting down her bag. More than ready, I replied, handing her a sealed envelope. When the time comes, you'll know what to do with this. The others received similar envelopes, each with specific instructions. They tucked them away without questions, the ultimate demonstration of trust. At 8:30, we made our way to the executive floor. The boardroom doors remained closed. Executives and board members likely already inside discussing matters before the official meeting. My team and I waited in the adjacent room, an uncomfortable silence hanging between us. "Shouldn't we be in there?" Ren whispered, gesturing toward the boardroom. "We weren't invited," I explained. "But don't worry, we will be." At precisely 8:55, Yvain's assistant approached us. "The CEO requests Engineering Team B join the meeting." My team exchanged nervous glances as we gathered our materials and followed her into the boardroom. The long mahogany table was surrounded by board members in expensive suits, with Yvain at the head. Dieter sat halfway down, papers spread before him, with Bastian beside him looking uncharacteristically subdued. Dieter's eyes widened when he saw us enter. He leaned over to whisper something to Bastian, whose complexion paled considerably. "Thank you for joining us," Yvain said, gesturing to the empty chairs on the opposite side of the table. "I've asked Thea and her team to provide context for some of the proposals we're discussing today." As we took our seats, I noticed a familiar face among the board members. Talia sat 3 seats down from Yvain, offering me a slight nod. "Now, Dieter," Yvain continued, "you were about to present your departmental restructuring plan?" Dieter stood, straightening his tie nervously. "Yes, as you know, our department is undergoing significant transformation to align with market demands. The centerpiece of this transformation is our new productivity methodology, pioneered by Bastian, which promises to revolutionize our workflow." He clicked through several slides showing colorful charts with impressive upward trends. "Initial implementation has begun, and we project a 200% productivity increase by year-end." "Impressive," one board member commented. "And what about the existing engineering team? How are they adapting to these new methodologies?" Dieter hesitated, glancing at us. "There have been some resistance to change, as expected with any transformation. But we're addressing that through gradual implementation and appropriate resource allocation." "Resource allocation," Yvain repeated. "Could you elaborate on that, Dieter?" He shifted uncomfortably. "We've had to prioritize certain workspace considerations to maximize efficiency. Some temporary relocation was necessary." "By temporary relocation, do you mean moving an entire specialized engineering team to the basement?" Yvain asked, her voice deceptively mild. The board members stirred, several frowning as they looked between Dieter and our team. "It was an interim solution," Dieter insisted. "The renovation plans for proper workspace are already underway." "I see," Yvain said. "And these renovations began after you learned the team was resigning, correct?" Dieter's face flushed. "The timing was—" "Thea," Yvain interrupted, turning to me. "Perhaps you could give the board your perspective?" I stood, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. "Thank you, Yvain. Before I begin, I want to clarify that what I'm about to share isn't about personal grievances. It's about systematic issues that threaten this company's future." I turned to my team. "Now, please." They each opened their envelopes and distributed documents to every person at the table. Dieter received his copy last, his hand trembling slightly as he took it. "What you're looking at," I explained, "is a comprehensive analysis of our department's productivity over the past 5 years, alongside financial allocations and resource distribution. The final pages show projected outcomes based on current management decisions." The board members flipped through the meticulously prepared documents, their expressions growing increasingly concerned. "These numbers can't be right," one board member said, pointing to a particular section. "This shows a projected 30% decline in deliverables under the new structure." "The numbers are accurate," I confirmed. "They're based on the department's own data, accessed through our project management systems. This indicates the team relocated to the basement was responsible for 78% of the department's successful deliverables last year." Another board member noted, looking up sharply. "Dieter, were you aware of this?" Before Dieter could respond, I continued. "What you may find most interesting is on page 12, the background check my team conducted on Bastian." Bastian jumped to his feet. "That's private information. You had no right." Every bit of information there is publicly available. I cut in calmly, including court records from the wrongful termination lawsuit at your previous company and the class action settlement from the company before that. The room went silent as everyone turned to those pages. Bastian slowly sank back into his chair. You'll note, I continued, that Bastian's revolutionary methodology has been implemented at 3 companies. All 3 experienced initial enthusiasm followed by significant productivity declines. 2 of those companies no longer exist. The third laid off 40% of their workforce last quarter. Dieter's face had gone from red to ashen. I wasn't aware. No, you weren't, I agreed, because you didn't do proper due diligence. You were so focused on finding a game changer that you ignored both warning signs and the consistent results your existing team was delivering. I turned to address the entire board. This isn't just about my team being relocated to a basement. It's about a management approach that values flash over substance, that chases quick wins at the expense of sustainable growth. It's about decision-making that ignores data in favor of charisma. The silence that followed was profound. Even Yvain seemed taken aback by the thoroughness of our presentation. Finally, the board chair spoke. Yvain mentioned your team has received offers elsewhere. Given what you've shown us, I'm not surprised. But I'm curious, why bring this to us now, when you're already leaving? I smiled. Because I care about this company, despite recent events, and because my team and I have proposed an alternative structure that would benefit everyone. I nodded to Noor, who distributed a second set of documents. This proposal suggests splitting our team between continuing here and joining Talia's company, with collaborative projects between the 2. It provides stability during transition, maintains crucial institutional knowledge, and creates a partnership that could strengthen both companies. Talia spoke up for the first time. I've reviewed this proposal and fully support it. This arrangement would be unprecedented in our industry and potentially revolutionary. The board chair studied the proposal, then looked at Dieter. And where do you fit in this new structure? Before Dieter could respond, I answered. That's for the board to decide. Our proposal requires new leadership for the remaining team, someone who values substance over style. The board chair nodded slowly, then turned to Dieter. I think we need to continue this discussion privately. Thea, thank you for your candor. Would you and your team give us the room? As we gathered our things to leave, Dieter finally found his voice. This is a setup, he hissed. You've been planning this for months. I met his gaze steadily. No, Dieter. You set this up the moment you decided my team belonged in a basement. I simply made sure everyone understood the consequences of that decision. 3 hours later, my team and I sat in a local restaurant, celebrating with Talia as my phone buzzed with a message from Yvain. Dieter and Bastian are gone. Board approved your proposal. When can you start as department director? I showed the message to my team, whose cheers drew curious glances from other diners. I quickly typed my response. Monday. Half-time, as agreed. Other half with Talia's team. So that was your plan all along? Finola asked, her eyes wide with realization. Not just to leave, but to completely restructure both companies and take Dieter's position? Not exactly, I admitted. The original plan was simply to secure our team's future. But when I saw how deeply flawed the system was, I realized we had an opportunity to fix it, not just for us, but for everyone who might come after us. And splitting the team between companies? Vega asked. Insurance, I explained. No single employer will ever have complete leverage over us again. We'll always have options. Ren raised her glass. To basements, then. Without them, none of this would have happened. We all laughed and clinked glasses. As conversation flowed around me, I thought about how sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, but building something better from the rubble of their mistakes. 6 months later, our unprecedented arrangement had become a case study in industry publications. The collaborative model between formerly competing companies had increased innovation while reducing burnout. Both companies' stock prices had risen significantly. As for Dieter and Bastian, last I heard, Dieter was working at a much smaller company in a reduced role. Bastian had reinvented himself as a workplace culture consultant, still chasing the next opportunity to sell empty promises. And my team? No longer in any basement. We occupied bright, airy offices in both companies. Our worth finally recognized not just in words but in actions. More importantly, we'd created a new model that valued substance over style, consistency over charisma, and respect over hierarchy. The most satisfying revenge isn't what you do to those who wronged you. It's creating a world where what they did to you becomes impossible for them to do to anyone else. If you've ever been undervalued at work or pushed aside for someone with a flashier approach, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you enjoyed this story of workplace justice, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of people who turned professional lemons into leadership lemonade.